Hi, I'm Carlin Borisenko. In early 2020, I was the knitting Democrat who accidentally went viral on the internet for going to a Trump rally and then left the party. I became the conservative darling, was on all the shows, traveled around the country, and then realized that conservatives were no better than Democrats. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that both political tribes are two sides of the same coin. But it wasn't all bad. On my journey, I became obsessed with understanding the woke ideology and the culture war. I broke the story of the city of Seattle doing segregated training with its employees.
How bad has this stuff become? The city of Seattle has now put out, I'm not kidding you, this is according to Dr. Carolyn Borisenko, who's an organizational psychologist. The city of Seattle asked its white employees to voluntarily spend a day off in a training about their internalized racial superiority.
I broke the story that led to the first ever federal lawsuit against critical race theory in the schools. I broke the Coke Be Less White story, one of the biggest anti-woke stories of all time. It got over 30 million views. Coca-Cola's corporate headquarters even had to change their outgoing voicemail.
Throughout the past few days, you may have seen inaccurate reporting on the content of our recently launched diversity, equity, and inclusion training program.
I exposed the schools in Burlington, Vermont for grooming middle school children live on the internet. They called me an unwoke cult leader for that. And the Vermont Human Rights Commission slandered me publicly as being a hate channel. I even got called a hero in Breitbart for exposing that the Washington Post was writing a hit piece on Christopher Rufo. I have broken story after story after story about what's going on in the public schools, from Cambridge, Massachusetts, to autistic sex education, to the Department of Education in Michigan, literally training teachers all over the state how to groom children. I wrote a book called Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. I host a podcast all about fighting back, and I'm downloading all of my knowledge to you on my Substack, carlin.substack.com. The world is a crazy place. We are literally surrounded by cults on all sides. On this show, we're going to do a deep dive into all aspects of the culture war, and I will show you the dark, dystopian underbellies on both sides. Here are the commitments I'll make to you. I will always tell you the truth. I will always bring you receipts. And if you stick with me, I promise you will see the world differently. Welcome to the cult. Please mount that like button for me and subscribe if you feel so inclined. You know, it's interesting for me to watch that intro because every time I watch it, of course, I have to remember the journey that I've had. And, you know, there have been a lot of positive parts of my journey. I mean, I suppose that I'm awake and red-pilled now, although sometimes I wonder if that's actually a really good thing. Like, can I get inserted back into the Matrix now or something? But there are other times when I just really believe that my journey has been one disappointment after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. And as soon as I find a group that I think is with it and that understands, that group becomes corrupted. You know, I knew that the Mises Caucus was dirty. I didn't know before they took over in Reno. I didn't figure it out until later, right? And I'm sorry for that because I wanted to believe in them. I wanted to believe in the Mises Caucus. I wanted so badly to believe in the Mises Caucus. I had to believe in something. There was nothing fucking left. The Democratic Party had betrayed me. They'd gone off a goddamn cliff. The conservatives don't even know which way is up. They don't even know which way is up on an average day. And I just can't be relied on. They don't do anything. They whine and complain. They don't even believe in the things that they say they do. They don't care about saving babies or saving children or doing any of these things. The only thing that conservatives really care about is owning the left, right? But I really thought, I really thought that at least the libertarians got it. And some of them do, thankfully. And before anyone asks, no, I am not leaving the Libertarian Party. Absolutely not. Not in any way. Because I was very, very lucky to be a libertarian in New Hampshire. I came to libertarianism in New Hampshire around the most based libertarians in the world. And I wasn't only hanging around Mises Caucus people who many of which were like new to the party. I connected with free staters. I've been lucky to learn a lot about what I understand about libertarianism from Dennis Pratt. Dennis Pratt is one of the top liberty activists in New Hampshire. He's also a dear, dear friend. And he has taught me so much about libertarian ethics and how and different perspectives. He doesn't just teach one, he offers you like different perspectives and he'll talk through issues with you and he does his best to teach every single day and we would be so lost without Dennis, it's not even funny. But I was very, very blessed to be introduced to this philosophy by people who live it and breathe it and spend their lives studying it and honing what they think. And I think a lot of people who came to the Libertarian Party, sadly, have not had the same benefit I did. So I feel like I was brought along extremely quickly, both because I was kind of hungry for it. Now, I still haven't read the 12 economics books I was given to read upon joining the Libertarian Party over 2 years ago now, by the way. You know, everyone thought they were like, Carlin's going to leave the Libertarian Party in a couple months. Nope. Carlin's going to leave the Libertarian Party out of the midterms. Nope, didn't do that either. I am fully committed to being a member of the Libertarian. I'm fully committed to being a libertarian. Now, the Libertarian Party is a separate thing than being a libertarian. Um, but I'm not leaving the Libertarian Party. I genuinely hope it gets its shit together. I really do. I don't think it will under the Mises Caucus anymore. I once did. I now don't anymore. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about why I believe that in this stream. But the libertarian philosophy, that's something I can get behind. And that's true no matter what the party does. And quite frankly, in New Hampshire, it doesn't even matter what the party does because the libertarians in New Hampshire aren't focused on the party. They aren't focused on what's going on nationally. They are focused almost entirely on getting libertarians to move to New Hampshire to build a libertarian homeland to gain as much concentration as we possibly can. Because the more concentration we gain, the more political power we get. And we already have more political power than any other group of libertarians in any other state. So I am deeply lucky and blessed to live in New Hampshire because I don't have to rely on national politics. The Free State Project is the most successful libertarian movement in history. Well, no, I mean, you could say the Amish, but I mean, in regards to like, you know, like people who are actually trying to gain political power, the Amish aren't really trying to gain political power. The Amish are pretty effing successful, though, if we're honest about it. But like, the Free State Project is the most successful libertarian movement of our time. The Free State Project has led to actual libertarians, a significant percentage of them being elected as state reps and are actually passing laws. That's why New Hampshire is the #1 free state. And so I am very deeply blessed to be around some of the most hardcore libertarians in the world. And I think that because of where I live and the people that I learned from, maybe that's why I am so incredibly disappointed with what I saw out of Mises Caucus libertarians today over the last couple days. Because it turns out, and you know, so many people tried to warn, and I didn't see it at the time, but I see it now. It turns out the Mises Caucus are just a bunch of conservatives that are pretending to be libertarians. And this disgusts me almost more than the conservative movement in general. Because, you know, at least with the conservative movement in general, they admit they're conservative. They admit they're authoritarian. They admit they want to legislate their religious values. They admit to all of it. They don't hide it. Yes, we want to build a Christian nationalist theocracy and we want to force our values on everyone because we have to do it because the left is going to do it if we don't. They admit it. The libertarians in the Mises Caucus, and this is not true of 100% of them, there are a lot of really good people in the Mises Caucus. Okay, there are. There really are. And I know because I have received DMs from more than a couple of them who have said that they have exactly the same disappointment as I do. So I'm not speaking about everyone, and if it doesn't apply to you, then it doesn't apply to you. But some of the most vocal libertarians in the Mises Caucus are just conservatives pretending to be fucking libertarians. And I see it now. And it took drag queens. Because of course it did. It took drag queens for me to be able to see it. Because apparently, according to these so-called libertarians that are only abiding by the non-aggression principle of, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff, according to these so-called libertarians, a drag queen walking around a campground, not doing anything sexual at all, just literally being like a man in a fabulous dress, perhaps singing a show tune, doing karaoke or something like that. A drag queen is now more culturally offensive than a giant colony of nudists running around a campground naked, doing a naked Olympics, having all sorts of effing naked events. Apparently, a man in a dress is more offensive to these people than naked people. And not only that, but it's more offensive to them than, open consumption and sale of drugs. Like, God knows that a drag queen, a man in a dress, is just the absolute downfall of society. Never mind that we're talking about at an event where there is open sale and consumption of like every single drug that you could possibly want out in the open. No, the drag queen is really our problem. No, and it's even more offensive than, did you know the event we're talking about? I'm going to tell you more about this in a moment if you don't know what I'm talking about. The event we're talking about, the drag queen just standing on the sidewalk, not doing anything, is actually more offensive than a strip show held on a school bus. But no, the number one thing that we have to worry about is drag queens, drag queens, drag queens, drag queens, drag queens. Are you fucking shitting me? I didn't get into this to be able to spend all day whining and crying about drag queens. You want to know why? Because drag queens are about the easiest thing to avoid in the world. If you don't like drag queens, then don't go to a drag show. It's really that simple. It's not complicated. No one is forcing you. If you don't want your kids to be around drag queens, then don't take them to Drag Queen Story Hour. I promise, if you just don't take them to the event, then they won't have to be around drag queens. Now, of course, conservatives don't understand this because if someone holds a private event that conservatives don't have to go to at a building that conservatives don't need to go near, that doesn't really matter. Because what conservatives will say is, they're shoving it down our throats. Even though they don't have to go to the event. No one is forcing nothing. But conservatives don't understand this concept. They don't understand that things can exist in society that they don't have to interact with if they don't want to. But libertarians were supposed to be the ones who understood this. Libertarians were supposed to be the ones that were like, do what you want to do, just don't hurt me and don't take my stuff and I really don't give an F. Like, this was supposed to be the last bastion of sanity, and I already have conservatives complaining in my chat right now, but it's marketed towards children! Then take your kids' cell phone away, take their computers away, be a fucking parent for once in your fucking life. It ain't society's job to parent your kids, bro. It's not. It is not society's job to parent your children. If you don't like what they're seeing on TV, then be an adult and turn off the fucking TV. If you don't like what they're learning in schools, then follow the good advice that I have been giving you for 3 fucking years and take your kids out of the schools. No, nothing is requiring you to send your kids to school. You are perfectly capable of homeschooling them, which you refuse to do. So stop expecting other people to be the parent to your children that you are supposed to be. And then we have people just openly and blatantly making shit up. And that seems to be the currency of conservatives now. If they don't like something, they will just make shit up that has no basis in reality, that they can't provide receipts for. It's like when Don Bolduc was running for Senate and he went around the state of New Hampshire saying there was a school that had a litter box for a kid that thought he was a cat. And I was like, okay, Don, do you have pictures of this? He was like, no, but there was a school that absolutely did this. I was like, Don, do you have pictures of this litter box? Do we even know like where this was? What school was it in, Don? And Don Bolduc went around to all the media, made himself look like an epic jackass because he was like, there was a litter box in a school. Like, no, there wasn't. You made it up. Someone made it up. Maybe Don Bolduc didn't made it up, but maybe Don Bolduc heard from someone who made it up, probably a conservative that probably saw it on the news somewhere, but no one has ever seen any photos of this magical litter box that was supposedly existed in schools that Don Bolduc went all over the media in New Hampshire saying, no, this is absolutely happening in schools. If you can't provide receipts, shut the F up. This is why I provide receipts for everything that I do. If I'm telling you something is happening, I'm showing you some sort of evidence to back that up. I don't just make up stuff out of thin air with no evidence, nothing to prove it. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about libertarians tonight, conservatives. Conservatives are going to have to rein in their fucking narcissism because conservatives think the whole world revolves around them and they are the biggest victims in the history of the universe. And they always have to tell people that they're the biggest victims in the history of the universe. Conservatives, I need you to rein in your narcissism because tonight is actually not about you. Tonight is about libertarians pretending to be conservatives. I strongly doubt that you can send me this video, but go ahead and try activelyunwoke@gmail.com. And I don't want to, and if you're sending me this video, it damn well had better been taxpayer funded and in a school. Because if you're sending me a video of a private event that no one was compelled to go to, no one was forced to bring their kids to, I will say to you, what made you bring your kids there if you didn't want them to go? Did a band of kidnappers come to your house and put a gun to your head and force you to take your kids to that drag show? If not, I don't care. I am beyond done with conservatives whining and complaining over things that they are not compelled to do. Because there are enough problems going on in the schools that you assholes are ignoring, which I have shown to you repeatedly over the course of years, doing this in my free time because you're like, show us the evidence. Okay, here. And then you don't look at it and you complain about things that you're not compelled to go to just because you want to legislate your religious values. So if you go ahead, send me that video, and I want you to show me it was taxpayer funded, and I want you to show me it was in a public place. That means like a school. And I want you to show me that children were forced to go there and it wasn't something that their parents brought them to voluntarily. Because guess what, guys? Parents are allowed to parent their kids in ways that you do not like. If you are advocating for parental rights, that means you are not just advocating for your right to know what gender and pronouns that your kids are going by in school. You are also advocating for the rights of parents you disagree with to parent their children in different ways. If a parent wants to take that school choice money that you just got them in Arizona or wherever else is doing school choice these days, if a parent wants to take that school choice money and pool it with other lefty parents in their area and open a school where their little darlings are taught by drag queens, then that is their effing business. That's what freedom and liberty means. That you do not get to decide for other people how to live your life, how they should live their life, and what values they should follow. You can decide for yourself what values you follow and what you choose to engage with and what events you choose to go to and how you choose to educate your child, but you are not allowed to decide for other people. And if those parents want their little darlings to be educated by drag queens from the time they are in kindergarten, then they are the ones who will have to deal with the consequence of that decision. Freedom for you means freedom for other people to make decisions that you find repugnant. And if you can't wrap your head around that, then you are an authoritarian. My definition of woke is authoritarian. It is not critical social justice. It is not critical consciousness. It is not the progressive left. My definition of woke is authoritarian because woke is about controlling what you can say and what you can think and what ideas you can consider and what conversations you can have and what conversations you can't have and what you're going to be canceled for and what you're going to be socially ostracized for. It is about controlling every single aspect of a person's life. And that is not an exclusive domain of the left. That also happens on the right. You don't get to draw the line for other people. That is the answer. You want to know where the line's drawn? When you take personal responsibility for your life and you don't focus on other people. You don't get to make decisions for other people unless you want them making decisions for you. I can say this a million different ways. I don't know how to make it any more clear. If you cannot find a way to peacefully coexist with people that you disagree with, then you are probably an authoritarian and you should go get some therapy and work on that. Because it is not your job to police the lives of other people. And in my experience, the authoritarians, the real ones, they can't even control their own lives, and they're trying to control other people for to make up for the fact that they can't control their own lives. But what I want to talk about right now are the libertarians. Because my friend Bonnie, who we talked about earlier on the stream, my friend Bonnie sent out, well, a spicy tweet earlier. Hang on, I'm just trying to find the one I want to start with. And apparently I don't have it in the window that I need it in, so give me 1 second, please. My friend Bonnie is a libertarian in New Hampshire. She is a more, like much more socially liberal libertarian, but you're allowed to be socially liberal. Hang on one sec. And Bonnie doesn't like it when people who claim to be libertarian essentially try to control the lives of others. And Bonnie has been particularly uppity over the issue of drag queens. Not necessarily that, like, Bonnie's big thing is drag queens. I don't think it is. But because she doesn't like, let me see, she doesn't like when adults try to tell each other essentially what to do. Let me see. I'm just trying to find the tweet in question. One sec. This might actually be more complicated than I thought it would be. Hang on, guys. 1 second. 1 second. All right. Well, I can't find it, but essentially what happened is Bonnie tweeted that she was going to hold a drag queen story hour at Porkfest, where drag queens were going to read like a libertarian book to kids by the Tuttle twins. Now, you might think Porkfest, for people who don't know, is a libertarian festival in New Hampshire that is at the end of June. It's about 10 weeks away. It is, for my money, the greatest week of the year. I love it so much. I love just the vibe of it, the people, the environment. Essentially, it is a pop-up anarchist village. What that means is that we take over an entire campground. I can actually show you a map of the campground. And there it is. I posted it earlier. So we take over this entire campground. And you can see it's a big campground. It's 116 acres. I have been to Porkfest now for the last 2 years. I still have yet to go to every single part of this campground. And to be honest, there are some areas that I just generally have avoided. And Porkfest is so big that if there are parts of the playground, or the campground rather, that you don't want to go to, you don't have to go to them, because there are a million events going on. There's always something to do. There are pop-up events. Yep, Breaking the Flaw Joa is noting, I have yet to go to the naked area. There is an entire naked area at Porkfest for the nudists. It's called the Body Freedom Village, but this year I am going to go to the Body Freedom Village, if for no other reason than my site where I'm going to be selling merch and stuff like that is actually really close to the Body Freedom Village, just by pure luck, I suppose. But there is a naked area. They have Naked Olympics. There was a guy last year who ran the entire Naked Olympics wearing nothing but his gun. I heard that rumor anyway, Joa. Maybe you can confirm. But this is a week-long event. And a lot of people do bring their kids because there are also family areas. There are kid-friendly events. Guess what? The kids don't need to go in the naked area if they don't want to. And basically how Porkfest works is it is a decentralized event. And really, there are only a couple things that the organizers at Porkfest actually organize insofar as talks go. You'll see on the map, there is a field down here, and there is a pavilion. The organizers will organize the big headliner talks at the pavilion, so there's always something you can see down there. There's also an office up here with another classroom. And the organizers of Porkfest will organize a series of talks in that classroom. There's also a tent down here where they host talks. They obviously host sponsorship. They make sure the campground is running. They make sure everyone has what they need. However, most of the events at Porkfest are not actually organized by Porkfest. They're organized by the people coming and renting a campsite at PorkFest and then hosting events in what's called a hub. Now, anyone can host a hub. You don't have to be an organization. You don't have to be anything fancy. Really, all you don't even really need to do much of anything. You can get a hub and say, I'm going to have talks at my picnic table every day and come and join us. And there will be people who come and join you. You can also get a hub and sell stuff. And so I'm going to be selling merch this year. I'm going to be selling stuff from my merch store, Unwoke Art. We also are going to have like a little arts and crafts event that's going to be announced very soon. And so like I'm selling stuff. A lot of people sell clothes. Some people sell food. There are all sorts of events. People can host podcasts at their hubs. People can host speakers at their hubs. Like you can really do whatever you want. There are also hubs where people will be selling and consuming drugs. And this is relevant to the conversation we're going to have tonight. Just like I told you about the naked area is relevant. You can get it is an anarchist village. It like there are no police. The police do not come near the campground. There is a deal made where they stay away. There is a private security called the PorkFest Rangers, but really there's nothing even to worry about because there is people in the anarchist village live by the non-aggression principle. Don't hurt people, don't take their stuff. Okay? So there's very even little theft at PorkFest. I even like I left my hotel room unlocked all last year. It was fine because I knew no one was going to go in my hotel room because why would they? They're libertarians. So you can sell whatever you want. People set up little cocktail stands all over the place. They bring like homemade moonshine. You can make food. You can grill stuff on your campsite and sell that. You can barter if you want to. You can take crypto, like whatever. And yeah, you can get any drug you want, anything. There are tents that are going to have whole fucking buffets. Now you don't have to. No one is going to force you. You can be completely sober the entire time. In fact, there are groups at PorkFest that will help you be completely sober the entire time if that's what you want to do. There's also churches. If you want to go to church every single day, there's a pop-up church that goes to PorkFest. You can go to church every single day if you want to. You are quite literally not forced to do anything. Everything is voluntary. And so you might think that at an event where you literally have a designated nudist area, yes, you can bring pets. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you might think at an event with a designated naked area, naked Olympics, naked hot tub, naked yoga, the whole nine. And that same event has buffets of drugs littered around the campground, where you can literally go to a strip show on a school bus. That's a real thing. Where they have raves at night with people doing God knows what. You might think that people might get the impression that there are some pretty controversial things. Some might say, especially if they're conservatives, they might say those are all controversial. But no. Do you know now what is the most controversial event announced for PorkFest? That Bonnie Freeman wants to host a drag queen story hour or a family-friendly drag show for kids in which men put on fabulous dresses and sing show tunes. This is now the most controversial thing at PorkFest. Murphy's Pool wants to know, will you and Victor be naked? Well, I am not planning on being naked. No. If Victor wants to be naked, he can, he's a grown man. He is allowed to go and partake of the naked area if he wants to. I doubt he's going to, but to each their own. But no, none of this other stuff is and by the way, did you guys know there have been drag shows at Porkfest for years? This wouldn't even be like the first drag show that's been held at Porkfest, because the whole point is anyone can plan whatever type of event they want, and you don't have to go. Breaking the Flaw says, there's sometimes a sex dome and orgies. I think it's gross. Well, guess what? That's not the most controversial thing to happen at Porkfest now. Now, the most controversial thing, the thing that everyone is up in arms about, is the fact that Bonnie Freeman wanted to have a family-friendly drag show at her campsite, where a drag queen would wear a dress and sing show tunes. Do you guys understand why I now say we are in a moral panic? Because Bonnie has been getting dragged, no pun intended, up and down the internet over this idea. And I talked about it a little bit on my stream at 5 p.m. So I'm not going to rehash the whole thing. You can go back and watch it. But I have additional information now that I didn't have at 5 p.m. And I'm even more pissed off than I was at 5 p.m. And so I'm working out some feelings right now at almost 2 a.m. Bonnie Freeman has been getting dragged up and down Twitter by people claiming to be libertarians who are now declaring, I can't ever go to Porkfest because I can't ever condone an event that would host a family-friendly drag show. Are you, bro? Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Are you kidding? You're okay with the nudity? You're okay with the illicit drugs? You're okay with the strip shows? You're okay with the raves? But no, it's a man in a dress singing show tunes that just crosses the fucking line, and you claim to be a libertarian. And by the way, no one is forcing you to go to the event, and Porkfest isn't even the one hosting the event. It is an attendee at Porkfest who bought their site where they can host whatever they want. See, this is the type of thing, just so everyone knows, I will be blocking anyone who pulls this shit tonight. This is how we know that you idiots are caught up in a moral panic. This right here. Because I said, man wearing a dress singing show tunes, and your response was, we can't condone child predators! How dare you? I'm sorry. Excuse me? Who said anything about a child predator, asshole? Did those words come out of my mouth? You think a man in a dress singing show tunes is going to just cross the fucking line? That rises to the level of being a child predator, a man in a dress singing show tunes? That at an event that you don't have to go to, at a campsite on a 116-acre campground, where if you don't like what's going on at one campsite, I promise you, you can go to any other campsite or any other part of the campground and not go to the thing that's offending your fragile sensibilities, because you know what the real issue is? You want to fuck the man in the dress, and that's why you're pushing back against it so bad. Because you're desperate to fuck the man in the dress, and that's why you're really having this reaction to it. I mean, I'm just a psychologist. I could be making shit up, but I don't actually think I am in this case. Shauna says, I introduced my Democrat mom to you and she likes you. Excellent. Hi, Shauna's mom. It's good to have you here. So at a campground that is 116 acres large, at a campground that will host an entire colony of nudists, a drug buffet that will provide you whatever you need, a strip show, multiple raves. The thing that everyone is concerned about is a man in a dress singing show tunes at a campsite that they don't have to go to. And I was watching Bonnie get dragged all over Twitter for this. And I was already pretty lit up that this was happening from so-called libertarians who are supposed to believe in the non-aggression principle, which is don't hurt people, don't take their stuff, and then leave people the F alone after that. And then I saw this. That's Bonnie. And because Bonnie tweeted to troll people that she was going to host a family-friendly drag show, which involves an adult wearing a dress and singing show tunes at a campsite you don't have to go to. People are now making images of Bonnie saying that she was charged with raping a 15-year-old boy. Do you think this is appropriate? Do you think this makes you the good guy? That's going to be on the internet forever. All because someone wants to host an event with a man in a dress singing show tunes that you don't have to go to on a 160-acre campground where you can go to any number of hundreds of other events that are happening at the same time. And this is how you choose to handle it? How about you just don't go? How about you just go do something else? And by the way, blaming PorkFest for this, PorkFest wasn't involved in the planning of this because that's not how PorkFest works. But no, now we have to boycott PorkFest and drag PorkFest all over the internet because Bonnie trolled your asses. If you think this is acceptable, get the fuck off my channel right now. If you think this is acceptable behavior, get the fuck out of here. Go subscribe to the Daily Wire. They'll love you. Go subscribe to Tim Pool. His audience will just love you. But you don't belong here. I am disgusted that this is how people who are claiming to be libertarians are responding because their fragile sensibilities are so hurt by the idea of a man wearing a dress singing show tunes that they are now dragging a woman and making memes joking about her being charged with raping a 15-year-old boy. And you know what's really funny about this is it got so bad. It got so bad that Bonnie tweeted out that there were no plans to actually host the event, that it was just a troll to begin with, and pretty much every Mises Caucus, well, not every Mises Caucus libertarian, I shouldn't say that. Like I said, there are many great Mises Caucus libertarians, and I have heard from more than a few of them that are sliding into my DMs because they can't say it publicly, but they'll say it privately that they do not like that the Mises Caucus is now exposing themselves as conservatives pretending to be libertarians. that are only out to enforce conservative values. But anyway, so Bonnie tweeted earlier, there are no plans for the Free Talk Live site to host a drag-friendly show at this time. I don't think any of us like children enough to want to specifically invite a bunch of them over to entertain us. Bonnie's husband, Ian, also was sure to clarify, just so we're clear, because I know I'm going to have people, well, they're doing sexually explicit stuff, because you're making assumptions and you're quite literally making shit up that doesn't exist in reality at all, because you are caught up in a moral panic. And everyone's saying, this is going to be sexually explicit. I just can't have my kids around that. Well, guess what? It's really easy to not have your kids around it, because you're on a 116-acre campground and you can go to any number of other areas in the campground. And guess what? The campground is so fucking big, you don't even have to go near the vicinity of that tent if you don't want to. And if you're such a great parent that you can't keep your little darlings away from one single campsite for a couple of hours and go to any number of other places on that campground, I question your parenting skill set. But regardless, Ian, who is Bonnie's husband, responded saying, drag is cross-dressing in fabulous outfits, singing pop songs and dancing. It's not dancing sexually. By the way, the person that Ian was responding to, who got elected as a libertarian to be mayor, this is not like an ordinary libertarian. This is an elected libertarian, which in the Libertarian Party is like, a gold star. This woman is an elected libertarian who has quite literally told Ian in the course of this conversation that she doesn't even want her child seeing a drag queen walking down the street. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? All right, negative YouTube. I warned you, and now you're getting blocked. Goodbye. Are you kidding me? You claim to be a libertarian, and now you're saying that men shouldn't be able to put on a dress and walk down the street and go somewhere and sing show tunes? You think that libertarianism doesn't cover people being able to wear what they want and to do karaoke? What kind of libertarianism are you selling when you don't think it involves people choosing what to wear on their body? Shauna, the right is going to lose the culture war because they're falling into the same Puritan traps they always fall into, the panic over drag. Yes, they are. But you know what's really funny about this is Bonnie actually tweeted later, is she actually wasn't even planning on doing this originally. She was just trolling people. She wasn't even really, oh, Metalopoly is confused. You're confused. I'm not the government. You're in my house. If I tell you to stop doing something in my house and you keep doing the thing that I told you to stop doing, then I'm going to kick your ass out of my house and you will not be invited back. And that doesn't inhibit on your free speech, snowflake. I'm not the government. That's how it works. So if you want to keep complaining and whining and crying, I will kick your ass out of my house because I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it at all. So the real bitch of this is, for the conservatives pretending to be libertarians, that Bonnie wasn't even going to host this event. This wasn't even a real thing until people saw the backlash to it. And then guess what? It became a real thing, mother effers. So Bonnie tweeted earlier, the only thing about it is ever since I brought it up, multiple people have started looking into what it would take to throw one. So I believe at least one will end up happening if everything goes right, just not at the Free Talk Live site. So congratulations, guys. Congratulations. You harassed and harangued a woman who was trolling you because you couldn't rein in your feelings about a man in drag singing a pop song at an event with a literal nudist colony, all of the drugs that you could ever imagine, a strip show on a fucking school bus, multiple raves, fucking orgies. But the thing you chose to focus on was one campsite for a couple of hours over a week long event hosting a drag queen. And you're going to tell me that you're not in a moral panic? If you don't, well, first of all, can every person who is dragging Bonnie please just stay the fuck away from Porkfest? I personally, on like just a deep level, I don't like this is the one week of the year where I get to be left alone in the woods to do whatever the F I want, to be as debaucherous as I want or not as debaucherous as I want, wherever my bliss takes me. And I don't want to be harangued by moral authorities who are going to enforce their religion over my life. So if you are a conservative pretending to be a libertarian and you have been dragging Bonnie and also Porkfest over this entire thing, partially because you don't understand how Porkfest works and you don't understand that they weren't hosting the event, that it was one person at a single campsite that was talking about hosting it. If you can't wrap your simple little heads around this concept, then please just stay the fuck away. Honest to God. Go to some conservative CPAC convention where you're wearing your perfect outfit during the day and then having your own coke induced orgies at night, because don't fucking tell me, I've been to CPAC twice. Don't fucking tell me you aren't having coke induced orgies at CPAC. You guys just like to hide it. You like to do it in the shadows. And then you go from your coke fueled orgies to complaining about drag queens and the moral degeneracy that is taking over America, and then you go back to your coke fueled orgies. But you can go do that at CPAC. I don't want to effing hear about it. I want to go to Porkfest. I want to sell t-shirts and merch. I want to hang out. I want to get high. I want to go to the Naked Olympics because I haven't ventured into the naked area the past couple years because quite frankly I've been scared, but I'm going for it this year. Not that I'm going to be naked. I will not be naked at Porkfest. I don't want any fucking rumors started. But I'm going to go watch. I want to be able to do whatever the F I want and I don't want to be bothered. Okay? But can we just stop pretending that people who are in a legitimate moral panic over the thought of a man in a dress, can we just acknowledge that these are not libertarians? If they're really trying to cancel an individual, making memes like this that they're spreading all over the internet, can we acknowledge that these people are not fucking libertarians? That they're conservatives who are pretending to be libertarians, who did a really good job of pretending for a lot of years, and maybe at one point they actually were libertarians, but as soon as they got a little bit of power and they took over the Libertarian Party, then their authoritarianism came out. They were totally about freedom and liberty and just the nap and all this stuff until they got power in their hands, and now they're showing their true effing colors as wanting to be authoritarians who are trying to control everyone else's life. Zarlo, thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. N equals 1 plus N. Have some money. Oh, thank you, my dear. I really do appreciate it. Well, I have. Oh, that's not the one. Better be. I've never actually done coke, so I don't know. I don't know. We're not going to start that rumor. Carlin is going to watch all the naked men swinging dicks. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, they're going to be like older guys. Like, I've heard that there is actually naked yoga at Porkfest. I'm not making that up. And what I've heard is that naked yoga is like all men. Half Orc Fighter with the member chat. Thank you for being a member of the channel for 23 months. I'm sorry that I can't display your chat on the screen, but that's just not integrated into StreamYard. Half Orc Fighter says, I'd be doing so much snow except for on Sunday. Have to remain sober enough to Uber it to get communion. I appreciate that, Half Orc Fighter. So it is so disappointing to me to watch how people claiming to be libertarians have behaved today. And maybe it's just that I've been disappointed by political party after political party after political party after political party. Okay, maybe only twice, not that many times. And this isn't even the Libertarian Party I'm necessarily disappointed in. It's the Mises Caucus. Because the Mises Caucus are turning into conservative authoritarians before our very eyes. I am so... it feels like a betrayal. It really does. It feels like they sold us all a bill of goods. Maybe they never even meant it. I don't know. They were going to be the non-woke people to take over the Libertarian Party, and now I'm seeing a good bit of them freaking out over a man in a dress singing show tunes at an event where you can buy whatever drugs you want right out in the open. You can do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anyone, not taking their stuff. There will be nothing to stop you. And somehow, if people think that this all sounds like a crazy idea, that you got like naked people and drugs and drag queens and strip shows and orgies and a kid's playground and scavenger hunts and lectures and raves and parties and concerts, and you have it all in one anarchist village where there are no police and you can do whatever the F you want. And if you want to pop up your own stand to sell cocktails and drugs on the side of the road, you can do that and no one's going to stop you from doing it. If you guys think that this sounds like a recipe made for disaster, it is actually one of the most peaceful weeks of my entire year. That's the reality. Because even though all of this nonsense and shenanigans and debauchery is absolutely happening, it's on a 116-acre campground where if you don't feel like partaking, you don't have to. You can go to any other thing, and it's all voluntary, and no one forces anyone to do anything. And no one hurts anyone, pretty much. I mean, every once in a while, there's a scuffle here and there, but really nothing to write home about. There's no really stealing. There's hardly any theft. It is one of the most peaceful weeks of my year. You meet great people from all walks of life. You have great conversations. There's always something to do. There's always something new to learn. You're in the middle of the woods. You barely have any cell phone reception. But no, we're going to try to cancel an event on the internet because we don't like that one single campsite is hosting a man in a dress singing pop songs. Completely clothed. Not inappropriate. When if your little darling went down the hill, they could probably get themselves in some real trouble. And honestly, that probably wouldn't happen because the adults actually at PorkFest are pretty good at looking after the kids. I have not heard a single story of a kid getting in any trouble. A, because there are designated family areas that they keep pretty family friendly. B, because the adults aren't going to allow the kids to do something stupid. And it's just like, this is why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have nice effing things. Because you guys were supposed to stand for freedom. You were supposed to stand for liberty. And instead, you got caught up in a moral panic where all you could think about and see in front of you was a drag queen. Are you literally surrounded by drag queens at all times? I promise you guys, drag queens are the very least of our problems right now. Drag queens are a distraction. You don't need to interact with a drag queen if you don't want to. Your kids don't need to interact with a drag queen if you don't want them to. Shauna says, as a conservative, I disavow these faux libertarians as conservatives. What do they expect from Porkfest? I don't know what they expect from Porkfest. And you know what the fucked up thing is half of them that have been denouncing Porkfest all day have been to Porkfest. They've been to it. They know what it is. They know how easy it is not to go to a campsite if you don't want to go to that campsite. Like, you can literally spend all day walking around at Porkfest and you still probably wouldn't see everything. Honestly. It is so easy to avoid things if you don't want to avoid them. And I guess my big point here is, why can't we get to a place where people who claim to be libertarians understand that if you don't want to do something, or if you don't approve of something, if something goes against your moral sensibilities, then don't engage with it. Turn the channel. You don't have to hate watch everything. You don't have to sit there. Listen, we watch a lot of stuff on my channel that we don't like. The purpose is to understand it. But we're choosing to watch that stuff. We choose to watch socialism. We choose to watch woke trainings. We make that choice. Nothing is forcing it down our throats. I'm proactively looking for it and showing it on the channel to show you what's going on. If I didn't want to watch it, do you know what I'd do? I wouldn't watch it. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'm doing a stream. This happened just last night, actually. Hang on, we'll get back to that. Allotrope. Most people like dictatorships if they agree with the dictator. That's exactly right. Exactly right. Thank you for the super chat. So this happened to me just last night. I was doing a stream about Steven Crowder being a narcissist, again, because we had a part 2 to follow up on. And it has a giant red thumbnail, just like the red thumbnail that I created for this, and has a big ass picture of Steven Crowder. And on the thumbnail, it says, "Is Steven Crowder a narcissist?" Like, it's very clear. There is nothing confusing about what this stream is about. There's nothing confusing about the topic. And I still had someone come into the chat and complain about the topic of the stream. They saw the thumbnail with Steven Crowder saying, "Is Steven Crowder a narcissist?" Okay, we know what's being discussed. They clicked on the thumbnail and then they came into the chat to say, "Carlin, I really hate that you're doing this stream and I don't like when you cover this content." Well, you're allowed to have that opinion. You really are. You are allowed to have that opinion. However, I have to question why you wasted your time clicking on something that you did not want to watch to come and complain about what was being discussed when no one forced you to click on the thumbnail. Can someone please explain this to me? If you see a thumbnail for a video and you don't want to watch it and are not interested in it, then why are you clicking on it? Because you know what's going to happen when you click on a thumbnail for something you don't want to watch? YouTube is going to serve you more of that content. So congratulations. You've just trapped yourself in a loop where YouTube is going to start serving you content that you don't want to watch because you click on content you don't want to watch. And you're only doing it to complain about the fact that you don't want to watch it. Like, can we please get to a place where if you don't like something, you just go do something else? And libertarians, more than anyone else, should be able to understand this. Libertarians, more than anyone else, should be able to say, you know what? I don't particularly want to go to a drag show. I don't want to be around men wearing a dress singing show tunes. I don't want to. Not my cup of tea. Don't like it. Definitely don't want my kids at it. You are allowed to think all those things. But the moment that you start to try to cancel people for doing something that is perfectly legal, that is not hurting anyone, that is not harming you in any way, that you are not at all compelled to interact with, the moment that you claim to be a libertarian and yet you start to cancel people for having a different effing opinion than you, I'm sorry, I'm going to call you a conservative. You're not a libertarian. If you can't wrap your head around the idea of peacefully coexisting with people that you disagree with. And if you're really going to have a giant hissy fit on Twitter over what one person does at their campsite that you don't have to go to, then I'm going to group you in with all the other whiners on Twitter who just spend all day whining and complaining about things they don't like. It makes no sense. I went to see one of my favorite bands last night. I went to see Placebo, and I hadn't seen Placebo live for years. And and I don't know if anyone here listens to Placebo, but I got into Placebo a long time ago because I became obsessed, absolutely obsessed with their singer, who I think is a genius, and also just, I mean, come on, one of the most beautiful men I've ever seen, even though he's tiny, 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 very tiny. Shauna says, I actually thought Porkfest was more degenerate than you're making it sound. Personally, I still wouldn't bring my kids if I had any, but honestly, it reminds me of a Ren Fair. Yeah, I don't know what a Ren Fair is, but I'll take your word for it, Shauna. So Placebo's been around for a really long time. Placebo's been around since the 90s. And this is the singer that I'm obsessed with. His name is Brian Mulco. And, you know, I was a teenager in the 90s. So I remember how great 90s music was because it was awesome. And I remember, kind of like that angsty Gen X sensibility. And you know what else I remember is the Satanic Panic. Does anyone else remember the Satanic Panic? Primus is okay. I don't mind Primus. So one of Brian Mulco's things. Oh, Renaissance Fair. Yeah, I guess it is similar to a Renaissance Fair. So one of Brian Mulco's things is he's very androgynous. And he was mentored by David Bowie. And they did like, they did a song together called Without You I'm Nothing. It's a great song. But he is extremely androgynous, and you can see in these pictures. And again, this is like 90s sensibility. You know what's funny is Brian Mulco came out at the show last night, and he said, and I think I might have this on video that I wasn't supposed to record but I did, and I might show it to you guys if I can find it. But Brian Mulco came out at the show last night. And by the way, he's like 50 years old now and he's still packing, clubs and stuff like that. And it's fucking great. He came out at the show last night and he said, "Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between like me." Or he said something like, "And everyone that doesn't fall into one of those categories like me," something like that. And when he said that, my husband like shot me this glare. He's like, "Carlin, he's fucking non-binary." I was like, no, you don't understand. This is just Brian Mulco's thing. Brian Mulco has always been androgynous. He's not talking about non-binary like queer Marxism. He's talking about like bi and androgyny from the 90s, back in the day when men dressed like this to be subversive. Does anyone remember this? You want to talk about your hate for drag queens? This is what men in the 90s were doing. See if we can find some other good pictures. Hang on. He wore dresses on stage all the time. The first single that they were famous for was called Nancy Boy. It's a great song. You should listen to it if you haven't. That's Brian Malco. He's wearing a dress. There he is there. He's tiny, tiny, tiny guy. Emphasize says, weaponizing pacifism equals tyranny. This won't end well. I don't agree with you, Emphasize, but thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. So you can see, this is what they did in the 90s. And I guess probably people freaked out. But I don't remember that. I don't remember people freaking out about this as much as they are about drag queens now. My gender is whatever Brian Malco was in the 90s, early 2000s. You know, I bring this up because drag queens weren't the first men in dresses, guys. This is not new. It's not new. People have always played around with stuff like this. But what I never thought I would see is people claiming to believe that you own your body and you own your labor and your private property is yours over everything else, trying to control if a man wears a dress. Never thought I'd see this. It makes no sense. I am not in favor of children transitioning. I'm not in favor of anyone under 18 medically changing their gender. But I don't give a flying F if they want to experiment with the clothes that they wear or how they wear their hair or what they do with their hair, because guess what? Kids have always done that. It doesn't mean they're trans. But I'm going to get called the groomer for doing this because I'm like, I don't effing care if a woman at a campsite that she paid money for wants to host a man wearing a dress singing show tunes. I don't care. It makes no difference to me at all. I'm going to get called the groomer for saying that over and over and over again. In fact, I already have. Now, as someone who has actually exposed multiple instances of grooming in schools, exposed schools that are proactively implementing policies designed to groom students, as someone who has exposed actual fucking grooming, more than most people on the fucking internet, to have to be called a groomer every day of my life by conservatives and libertarians pretending to be conservatives, all of whom do nothing and focus on nonsense and whine and complain about drag queens at events that they do not have to bring their kids to, but do nothing, and I mean fucking nothing, to fight back against what is going on in the schools in any real way, and you still have the nerve to fucking scream groomer in my face? You don't care about grooming. If you are spending all of your days complaining about drag queens, you do not care about grooming. If you are spending your time whining and complaining over people hosting private events that you do not have to go to, then you do not care about grooming. If you are trying to take away the parental rights of people that disagree with you, that want their kids to go to a drag story hour, that want their kids to be educated like that, guess what? Parental rights for you mean parental rights for them. And if they want to fuck up their kids, that is none of your concern. Focus on your own kids. Oh, bro, you must not know me because I've done more journalism to expose grooming than almost anyone on the internet. So maybe we haven't met. You should go into my video archive because I don't just do videos on the internet. I don't just watch things on YouTube. I actually go out and do the work that people like you refuse to do because you're too busy whining and complaining about drag queens, and then you have the nerve to call me a groomer. Because I don't care if people go to a drag show. We are so fucked. And it is because this moral panic has taken over. Well, if I misunderstood, I apologize. But I agree with you that things are getting very bad and no one is doing anything. And part of the reason that we are so fucked is because people are more concerned about men wearing dresses singing show tunes at events that they don't have to go to than they are in actually doing anything that matters. And they think they're the good and the righteous, and they are truly convinced that screaming groomer in everyone's face is going to solve anything. You know, I seriously wonder sometimes why I even bother doing this stuff. I really do. I seriously wonder if there's any point to it at all. I'm starting to think there's no point. I've been doing this over 3 years now. I'm just seeing things get worse and worse and worse. I've watched as the right, the conservative right, has descended into a moral panic that reminds me very closely of the satanic panic in the 90s, and I don't want any part of it. I didn't want any part of the satanic panic or the moral majority or the conservative right. I didn't want any of it when I experienced it in the 90s, and I sure as shit don't want it now. I don't know where conservatives missed the boat that you can practice whatever religion you want in your home, but it is not your job to tell other people what to do and to how to live their life. Oh, this is, you know what? We're friends again. This is absolutely correct. It is not going to stop at trans people. Soon they will go after anybody who disagrees with their Christian fascism, and they already are. It's not even soon. They already are. You know, I haven't written as much content on my Substack lately, and well, I was hopeful that I was gonna write something tonight, but, who knows? I really do hope I still will be able to. I do stay up rather late, as you guys know. I sleep in till, like, 10 o'clock, and then I stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning writing or doing this. And that's just the schedule I like to work. I work better at night, there are less distractions, there's less noise, I can think. But I've had a hard time writing lately because, honestly, like, I sometimes feel like I work so hard on things and it just doesn't matter because no one reads it. Even though that's not true. There's actually like a significant amount of people that read my work. Like I get like 10,000 views a day on my Substack, so it's not like no one's reading it, but it's like it does feel like no one's reading it. That's what it feels like. And I guess the reason it feels that way is because people might read it, but they don't do anything with it. At least not that I know of. Or I make these videos. my channel's done really well in the last month. It started when I went to the socialist conference, and I was so excited. I was so excited. I was like, "Holy shit, people are interested in the socialist stuff," because I've been doing the socialist stuff for 7 months, and I think it's fascinating. It's one of my favorite topics that I cover. I fucking love it. And when my video after the conference went like baby viral, which is the first thing that's gone like viral on my channel in a while because it's been like so suppressed by YouTube. But I was so excited. I was like, "Holy shit, people like the socialist stuff." And it brought a lot of people back to my channel who hadn't been shown my channel in a while, which was really great. And then I started doing the Steven Crowder stuff. And people were responding to that, and lots of people were watching it because it's had a lot of interest, and those streams did very well. But I don't want to talk about fucking Steven Crowder. I want to talk about what's going on in the schools. I want to show you all the receipts I have from that. I want to talk about how to fix the schools. I don't want to talk about Steven Crowder. Sure, I'll use it because it's a convenient example for like, I mean, I think we've been able to talk about a lot of like bigger picture issues. But do you know what happens when I do streams showing you what's going on in the schools, or videos talking about what's going on in the schools, or anything like that? No one watches them. No one watches them. So I hear from people all day, "Carlin, thank you so much for the work you're doing. It's critical, it's vital, I appreciate it." But then when I don't understand this, I really don't. Like, when I post videos about the important things, the things that you guys actually need to know, the policies that are going on in your kids' schools, the documents, the trainings, like everything that is influencing what your kids are actually learning on a day-to-day basis, that is so much more important than drag queens. It's not even funny. No one fucking watches it, but you'll show up for 2 a.m. streams about Steven Crowder. Why? These are the topics you claim to care about, but you spend all day complaining about drag queens and Dylan Mulvaney. Jason asks, are the schools even fixable? No. Schools are not fixable. They're definitely not fixable when no one cares to take the time to learn what's going on in them or how to fix them. The schools are lost, and nothing conservatives are doing is going to get them back. Because most of the stuff related to drag queens isn't happening in the schools. So I sit here and go, I've got a metric fuck ton of really good content. I don't see you in my live streams. I don't see you commenting on my videos about the schools. I know people who comment on my channel regularly. I know the people who are here for the who are here for the regular streams. I've never seen you before. So where have you been? Honestly. So these are the things. And guys, if you want me to turn this channel into a Steven Crowder gossip channel, or a Candace Owens gossip channel, or just a general YouTube drama gossip channel, I mean, maybe that's the best thing I can do. Maybe that's the thing that will get it the most views. Maybe that's the thing that will make me the most money. There are a lot of people out there that are only thinking about money. Maybe I should have learned that lesson a long time ago. Maybe I should have just never bothered doing the important content, because if people don't appreciate the important content, then why am I wasting my time making it? If no one will watch it, no one will interact with it, no one will do something about it, then why do I even waste my time? Why do I even bother? I can write clickbait headlines too. I've never wanted to stoop to that. No, they don't realize it's not mandatory. They think that if someone is hosting a drag queen story hour somewhere, that apparently everyone is obligated to go. You know, and let's not even discuss the conservative media. Okay, let's discuss it. It's 2:30 in the morning. Let's discuss it. I quit on the conservative media. I give up. None of them are worth anything. You know, I really stopped kind of reaching out to the media a while ago because they always refused to cover my stuff, or they would flat out steal my stuff and call it theirs when it wasn't. So I just stopped reaching out to the media at some point, when I had something important, because either they weren't gonna cover it or they were gonna steal it and claim it was theirs when it wasn't theirs, it was mine. But I reached out to them. I every once in a while, I still did. I reached out to all of them after we infiltrated the Autistic Sex Ed webinar. And for those of you who missed the Autistic Sex Ed webinar, look up Autistic Sex Ed on this channel. Look it up on my Substack. You will be shocked. You will be genuinely shocked. They're teaching queer Marxism sex education to autistic kids in public school. They're teaching it at the National Sex Ed Conference as the standard. They're teaching autistic kids how to masturbate with sex toys. Underage kids. I got them all admitting this on video. I got them all admitting it on video overtly. I mean, honestly, look it up on my Substack. I was up till 4 in the morning one morning making, like, what, 20 something clips to really break it down and give you all the good stuff, and there was so much stuff in the autistic sex ed training that we infiltrated that there were, like, I mean, over a dozen clips, maybe close to 20 clips, I don't even remember. Thank you for the super sticker, PT, I do appreciate it. So that was rather important, right? Like, would you guys think it would be important if for actual just video evidence that in public schools they are teaching autistic underage children to masturbate with sex toys without their parents being present, and they're teaching them all sorts of other shit too. That is like the tip of the iceberg of what they're teaching these kids, and I got it all on video, and I reached out to every conservative media outlet because I was like, kind of a big deal. And it went like baby viral on Twitter. Because normal people, when they see it, they understand why it's important and they share it. So I got normal people to share it. I got some influencers to share it on Twitter. But did any conservative media cover it, even though they all knew about it? No. That was my first real black pill. You're gonna whine all day about groomers? Honestly? You're gonna whine and complain all day about groomers? And then you get video evidence of them teaching autistic children to masturbate using sex toys in public school as part of standard sex ed curriculum, and you have it on video, and there's no question about what's being said. There's no confusion. There's no innuendo. You have the full context. It's not a clip out of context because I filmed and recorded the full training. So if people want to see the full context of the training, I fucking have it. And you complain about groomers all day in schools and you won't tell people what's going on? And then this last one with the Socialist Conference, I still have material I haven't released from the Socialist Conference. But I released some pretty big things. I released photographic evidence of a self-managed abortion tour to include abortion doula and a self-worship abortion shrine. I released a massive book list of books targeting trans kids in elementary school. I released information about an organization that is quite literally offering psychotherapy to trans 3-year-olds, at the same time offering BDSM therapy to adults in the same clinic with the same therapists. These people are literally calling themselves the abortion storytellers. It's in their bios. I have everything from this event documented. I have the former president of Hampshire College denouncing capitalism from the main stage during the keynote. I have every bit of this documented. And I reached out to conservative media again against my better judgment because they always disappoint me. And I actually did get some response this time, and I was told that it was going to be covered. And it never was. Never covered. By a few shows here and there, just like more independent media stuff, and I did get some good views on it, and I was happy with that. But again, the conservative media that screams all day about socialism, 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 the conservative media who screams about how awful these abortion mongers are and how awful the shout your abortion people are, have literal evidence of an abortion shrine handed to them on a silver fucking platter, and they refuse to cover it. And they lie about it, and they make excuses. But do you know what they did cover? This is a true story. Big time conservative media outlet refused to cover the socialist conference and the abortion shrine and the abortion doula and the gender clinic that is treating children starting at 3 years old by doing psychotherapy on trans kids and having trans kids support groups starting at 5 years old, trans book club starting at 8 years old. They refused to cover that. But do you know what they did cover? There was an actual story about a woman wearing a low-cut top to the gym and men staring at her. And this was considered newsworthy that by a major, 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 major conservative media outlet. That a woman wore a low-cut top to the gym and men stared at her. That was considered more newsworthy than literal abortion shrine by conservative media. Well, I guess conservatives, we just have different values. Because you whine and complain all day about grooming, 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 abortion, 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 saving babies, saving babies, saving babies, saving babies, saving babies, saving kids, saving kids, saving kids, saving kids, saving kids. Whine and complain all day. But when you are handed things on a silver platter and you refuse to even look at them, but you will cover a story about a woman wearing a low cut top to a gym and men staring at her like that's real news. Why am I even wasting my time? Why am I putting myself in, quite frankly, physical danger? Because I know I play this off and I try to be lighthearted about it. I really do. But can we just acknowledge that there was actually Antifa at this socialist conference that I went to? There really was. That's no joke. I put myself in physical goddamn danger by going to that conference. A stunt, by the way, that I don't think I can ever actually pull again without really putting my safety in danger, even though I'm probably going to end up trying. and you can't even bother to cover it? You can't even bother to tell your audience what's going on? Don't tell me you claim to care about the things that you are raising holy hell about when you are handed this stuff on a silver platter and you do nothing with it. And then on top of it, I get told that I'm a groomer every goddamn day by the people that claim to care about this stuff. But when they are shown evidence of actual grooming and actual leftist insanity handed to them, here you go for free. You're welcome. They do nothing with it. Now, I'm not in this to get like to be on like Fox News. I'm really not. I did that. I'm kind of over it, to be honest. But you know what? I've thought a lot about the first big media that I did after I was the Democrat that went to the Trump rally was Fox and Friends. I've been on Fox News many times. But that first story about like I was a Democrat for 20 years who went to a Trump rally. And that got me on Fox and Friends. Okay, cool. But that wasn't news. That wasn't news. Me going to a Trump rally wasn't news. I understand that it inspired a lot of people. I get it. I became like a symbol of something that I don't even really know what I became a symbol of because it really doesn't matter anymore. But my story was not news. It wasn't. Do you know what is news? Autistic children being taught how to masturbate with sex toys in sex ed class by people who are definitely not their parents. That's actual news. That's important. People should really know about that. Parents of autistic kids should really know about that. I don't even, quite frankly, really care if you put my name on it or not, even though I was the only one who cared enough to go and get the information. But that's something that's important that people need to know about. And they refuse to cover it. Or for people who claim to care so much about saving babies, to have literal photos of a real live abortion shrine handed to them on a silver platter. And they choose woman in low cut top gets ogled at the gym. We are so fucked. We are so fucked. It's not even funny. And it's your influencers that are doing it. It's your influencers, the people that you look to, the people that you trust, that are doing it. Because they're not telling you what's actually going on. They refuse to show you what's actually going on. And I try. I really do try. And I try to be nuanced about it. And I always try to show you the full context so that you really understand it. I spend so many hours just sitting here watching content with you and explaining it to you and showing you all of it. I show you things no one else on the internet is showing you. But do you know what gets the most views? Steven Crowder. And fine, we can do our Steven Crowder stuff and we can bitch on Candace Owens and all of that stuff, and we can use them examples of being, at least Candace, the raging obvious narcissist that she is. Like, we can do that stuff, and I don't mind doing it, and I don't mind taking breaks, and I don't mind doing trashy drama streams, but where the fuck are you when it's important? And why can't I get people to demand that their media and their influencers actually cover things that are important? Because if people demanded, they would cover it. People have no idea how bad it really is because they refuse to look, and the people that they trust to tell them how bad it really is refuse to tell them. Victoria, thank you for the super chat. I normally watch from my husband's account, but I watch all your live streams. Well, imp up with my baby pulled my middle schooler from I pulled my middle schooler from school because he See, and then I get stuff like this where people tell me that they pulled their kid out of school because of me, and I'm like, "Okay." And I think this is why I still do it. So thank you for telling me that. Shauna says the ASD being taught like that is going to be worse because they're already confused about gender. That's exactly right. They're proactively trying to trans autistic kids through autistic sex education, and I have all the evidence of it, and no conservative media outlet wants to cover it. So parents don't know because I can't. If I could get millions of people to look at my stuff and actually look at it, I would, but I can't. And we had it. We fucking have the evidence of it. I definitely didn't anticipate crying tonight, just so people know. We have the evidence that they're using sex education to trans autistic children. We have it in no uncertain terms. We have the full form content. It's not just a clip. It exists on this channel right now. And no one thought it was important enough to tell parents. Don't tell me they care about the things they claim to care about because they don't. They really don't. None of them really care. David, thank you for the super chat. Please keep the faith, Carlin. I've been following and watching you for years. Your civic service is appreciated. I do appreciate that. I don't know. Oh, they won't cover it. You know, a lot of them watch me, And we know that they watch me because like I'll say something that hasn't been talked about like before, and then someone from my audience or from my locals or my supporter community, they'll say, "Carlin, Tim Pool was saying something that mysteriously sounded a whole lot like you." And we'll watch the clip and, "Oh yeah, that's me." And I don't know if he's watching me or if he got it from somewhere else, but that came from me. I've had so many of these influencers, but they won't cover the important stuff. Again, they won't cover the important stuff. They will take the talking points, but they won't cover the important stuff, and that's really what I care about, you know? So, I don't know what else to do because it really seems like the things that people are most interested in it's like YouTube drama. And so if I can't get eyes on the important things, like it's all there, it's all on my Substack right now, it's all on the YouTube channel right now. It's not like it's hidden, it's not secret. Oh yeah, they've been reached out to as well. They're on the list of conservative media outlets who refuse to cover it. I guess I just don't know what options I'm left with because if I'm just going to be called a groomer every single day, well, I'm quite frankly killing myself to try to expose this stuff. The real things that matter, the policy guidelines, and I'm still just getting shit on all day, every day, having to deal with so much bullshit, having my friends doxxed, having my life turned upside down. Then why don't I just cover the drama content and have it be done with? Why don't I just do more of that? We can watch I can shit on Candace Owens every day of the week and be perfectly happy with it. I mean, I get about 23 views on Rumble and I make no money there, so it's not really worth it for me to be there. Well, I agree with you, the other stuff is more important, but no one's watching it. And I can't I can't force people to watch things that they refuse to watch. I can't force people to show things that they refuse to show. I can't force people to stop hate watching Dylan Mulvaney. I can't force people to read things they don't want to read. I have tried so hard in every way that I can. And so I guess I just don't know what to do anymore. And maybe it's not even worth it because people don't care. They care about drag queens. They care about trying to control other people. They care about forcing their religious values onto people. They care about I don't even know what they care about. They care about outrage. They care about pissing people off. They care about taking things out of context and presenting them in the most twisted, perverse way. They care about Steven Crowder's marriage, which is none of our fucking business. Guys, for all the media outlets that you're listing, I've probably tried all of them. Shauna says conservatives on YouTube steal content from liberals and libertarians all the time, and when I get out of my echo chambers, I saw how much they stole. You know, what's funny is like my content gets stolen like all the time. Like all the time. I actually ended up putting a paywall up on my Substack because I was like, you know what? If you're going to keep stealing my content and claiming it's your own, you're at least going to pay me $5 a month to do it, which I don't actually think is asking too much. But on the rare occasions that I've talked about my content being stolen, do you know what the reaction has been? Why are you talking about this? Why are you infighting? Why are you talking about your content being stolen? Do you think you're entitled to have your content not stolen? How do you think this works, Carolyn? Why are you doing this? You're just a leftist over and over and over and over and over. I don't steal from anyone. I don't even watch anyone. Specifically because I don't want to be influenced by people. I want to come to my own conclusions. I want to do my own research. And so, no, I don't steal from anyone. So, I guess, yeah, I'm a little black pilled tonight because I don't think that people care enough to solve the problem. I think people don't care enough to even try to understand the problem. I don't think their influencers and their media are being honest with them about what the problem is, even though they damn well know what the problem is because they've been shown what the problem is, but they refuse to tell people what the problem is. And if people don't understand what the problem is, and they just spend all day attacking each other and destroying each other and complaining about drag queens and complaining about Dylan Mulvaney and trying to control other people's lives and spend no time trying to accurately understand what the problem is or how to solve the problem, then why would we think that we ever have any chance of winning? No, Victoria, you're right. Parents don't want to believe the truth. They don't want to, and so this is why I don't actually think that people care about grooming. Your autistic children, for those of you who have autistic children, your autistic children are being taught are being transed in sex education. Let me just I'll say it. I'll say it flat out. Your autistic children are being transed in sex education right now. Right now. This is being presented at the National Sex Education Conference as a keynote and as the standard to teach in sex education. Autistic children are more susceptible to gender ideology than anywhere else, and it's being forced on them in schools, and we have video evidence of it, and no one will show people. So don't tell me you care about grooming. Don't tell me you care about grooming. Don't tell me you even know what grooming is. Don't tell me you care about protecting children. You care about publishing a news story about a woman wearing a low-cut top to a gym and men looking at her boobs. That's what you prioritized. True story, by the way, for people who just joined. That's what conservative media cared about covering rather than the fact that autistic children are being transed in school and we have video evidence of it. We need to live in the realm of reality. This is not going to happen. Your political parties are not going to save you because it is impossible to start a new political party. It is impossible to get ballot access. It is impossible to raise the money required to do anything. The two political parties are never going to change. They are two sides of the same coin. It is impossible to change them. They are not going to solve any problem. Your politicians don't do anything. I tell people all the time, stop voting for horrible candidates, stop voting for horrible candidates, stop voting for horrible candidates, just stop voting for them. And they go, but then the Democrat will win. And I go, what the fuck is the Republican doing? And they go, they're better than the Democrat. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing that makes them better than the Democrat? And they can't answer that question. And then they vote for them anyway, and then nothing changes, and they wonder why. Ronna McDaniel got voted back in to be the head of the GOP. That problem ain't getting solved anytime soon, and it wasn't even effing close. Democratic Party is unsavable. Republican Party is unsavable. The Libertarian Party is ineffectual. Will never be a factor in national elections. Will never be a factor in national elections. I say that as a libertarian. We need to be honest about this. It is impossible to start a third party. It will never happen. Getting ballot access in all 50 states is goddamn near impossible. And that's because of the Republicans just as much as the Democrats. So, pursuing any strategy that involves changing the political parties is just a non-starter because it won't work. Emphasize, thank you for the super chat. I suppose my mistake is worrying about my daughter's rights being stomped out if the US government will still be around. Let's get this party started. I mean, everyone's rights are going to be stomped out. Emphasize. We're on the long, slow descent into socialism. There ain't nothing we can do to stop it. The Republicans and the conservatives are more interested in whining about drag queens and Dylan Mulvaney than they are in doing anything real. In the meantime, their kids are being indoctrinated and transitioned in schools to create the ideal world of the non-binary that the queer Marxists want. And this is all happening right now, and we have video evidence of all of it. I have every single thing that I have said tonight, I have video evidence of, or photographs in the case of the Socialist Conference. But the vast majority of things that I have said tonight, I have video evidence of that is publicly available, and everyone refuses to talk about it. So I guess I don't know what to do anymore, and it's 3 a.m. and I'm whining on the internet and crying on the internet over this. I started with a stream like berating the libertarians, and I still think we are in a moral panic, and that moral panic is going to cause us to focus on things that don't matter. And then, God forbid, if by some miracle we ever do get the left out of office, it's going to be replaced by an authoritarian Christian nationalist right who's going to try to force us into a literal Handmaid's Tale. That's going to be fun for everyone, and that's real. I'm not joking around when I say that. The conservative right wants a Christian theocracy. Because I don't just follow the crazy shit on the left. I follow the crazy shit on the right, too. And they're a carbon copy. Two sides of the same coin. Every crazy thing that the left wants to do, the right wants to do as well. They just do it in slightly different ways. So I guess I don't know what to do anymore. So maybe I should just start covering a lot of Steven Crowder and Candace Owens, and maybe I should start talking about narcissism a lot because people seem to like that. And I can pontificate and just make shit up and call everyone that I disagree with a narcissist because that seems to play really well on the internet. And I don't know what to do other than that. I'm at a loss. So if you guys have any ideas, do let me know. Greg says, do you think they want to sterilize the undesirables, trans, autistic, mental illness as a backdoor to eugenics? No, they want to sterilize everyone. It's not just the undesirables. They want to sterilize everyone. They want all children to be born via surrogacy. They do not want the biological family to exist. They will do anything that they can to sterilize as many people as possible because they don't want the biological family to exist. It's not just the undesirables, it's everyone. I'm not joking when I say they want a world full of non-binary. Transition doesn't mean trans no longer means transition from man to woman or woman to man. It means to transform the gender binary, to abolish the binary, to liberate themselves from the binary. That's why you see people with she, they pronouns. And that's something that I've talked about on my channel over and over and over and over and over again on clips that I have made that people refuse to watch, including one relatively recently. Just made one the other day saying that exact same thing. People won't watch it. So if anyone has any ideas, you let me know. But the way I'm thinking right now, if we're going to suffer the long, slow descent into socialism anyway, I'm just going to cover some pop culture shit. I'm going to make more money. Not that money is everything, but, if I'm wasting my time covering the other stuff, if I'm wasting my time, I still want to do the school stuff. I am still working on the school stuff, but it's been really hard for me to do it lately because I'm so fucking black-pilled on if people even care. So every time I sit down to do it, I'm like, this is a big fucking waste of my time because no one even cares. But I'll get hundreds of people to listen to me rant about Steven Crowder being a narcissist at 3 a.m. That's no problem at all. But so maybe we'll just do some more pop culture stuff. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that. Emphasize says underground mole people getting us back in check. Maybe that's true, Emphasize. Maybe that's true. So guys, if you care, because I do see a lot of people saying they care, and I do appreciate that. Kind of out there, but TikTok, that might help bring more traffic. Oh, no. I'm not going on TikTok. No. No, I've posted a couple things on TikTok. They never really go anywhere, and I can only expose us to so much insanity at once. Or expose myself, rather, not us. I can only expose myself to so much insanity, and I'm not willing to go down that route. So, if people want me to cover the real stuff, then you need to start showing up for the real stuff. And you need to start sharing the real stuff. And if you want your media outlets to cover the real stuff, then send it to them. Because I'm not going to do it anymore. I am no longer going to waste my time. Because it is all just a waste of time for me. If you want them to cover it, then send it to them and tell them to cover it. If you want me to continue covering it, then show up when I post videos about it. Show up to my Substack when I'm writing articles about it. Share the content out. And if you're not willing to do that, that's fine. That's your choice. I can't force you to do anything. But if you're not willing to do that, then I'm going to make the assumption that no one cares or very few people care, and that it is no longer a feasible way for me to spend my time killing myself to try to show people these things when no one cares about it. It's not enough just to claim that you care about it, you have to do something about it. All right, guys, it's 3:15 in the morning. I'm going to go to bed. I will be back tomorrow with a stream that I'm sure that very few people will watch, because we're going to talk about how Gays Against Groomers is a completely corrupt organization, and I'm going to interview the former South Carolina chapter lead of Gays Against Groomers. Her name is Nikki Starkiller. She is a trans woman that was fired by Gays Against Groomers as their South Carolina chapter lead because 2 years prior to joining Gays Against Groomers, she went to a major tourist destination in North Carolina that is also the home of the Pizzagate John Podesta murder pool, which is a major tourist destination, the largest private home in America, happens to be also home of a conspiracy theory. And Gays Against Groomers is such a professional organization that they fired her for it and has had a max exodus of employees. But somehow Gays Against Groomers was able to raise over $1 million while being a complete and total shit show of an organization. And everyone on the conservative right wants to promote these assholes as though they're actually going to solve grooming when they're not. They're just selling merchandise to raise money that they don't actually do anything with because they don't actually pay anyone. Everyone's a volunteer and they treat all their people like shit. I've covered it several times on my Substack if you have questions about this, but we're going to hear from a former member of Gays Against Groomers today, I guess, at 5 p.m., and that's going to be the stream that we do. That's all I've got, guys. Take care. Thank you for hanging out. We'll see you soon.